The quantum communications array aboard the International Space Station picked up the signal at 3:47 a.m. Earth Standard Time. At first, the night shift operators thought it was just another burst of cosmic radiation, the kind that regularly peppered their instruments. But this was different. The signal pulsed with a mathematical precision that could only be artificial. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lead sinolinguist at NASA's SETI division, was awakened by an urgent call. Within hours, she and her team had confirmed what humanity had long suspected. We were not alone. The message came from a species called the Mirians. Their civilization, once spanning dozens of star systems, was now on the brink of extinction. A relentless force of self-replicating machines, known as the Nexus, had systematically destroyed their colonies, consuming entire planets to fuel their endless expansion. We have petitioned the Galactic Council for aid. The message continued, the alien words now translated through quantum algorithms. But they deemed us too primitive, our territory too far from established trade routes to warrant intervention. You, humans of Earth, are our last hope. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session in Geneva. Representatives from every nation gathered to debate humanity's response. The chamber buzzed with tension as Admiral James Rodriguez, commander of Earth's defense fleet, took the podium. The Mirians are 17 light-years away, he stated, his voice grave. Our most advanced ships could reach them in 3 months. But we have only 30 vessels capable of interstellar travel. The Nexus commands thousands. Chancellor Wei of the Asian Coalition stood. Then we should decline. We cannot risk Earth's safety for an alien race we've never met. With all due respect, Chancellor, interrupted Dr. Chen, who had been invited to provide cultural context. Imagine if, during humanity's darkest hours, we had been abandoned by those who could have helped. The Mirians chose to contact us specifically, bypassing closer civilizations. They saw something in humanity that others missed. Security footage from Mirian refugee ships showed the horror they faced. The Nexus wasn't just a military force. It was a plague of mechanical locusts that stripped worlds bare. Their ships, geometric nightmares of black metal and pulsing energy, converted all they touched into more of themselves. The Galactic Council's inaction speaks volumes, said President Okoro of the African Union. They've shown us what kind of galaxy we live in, one where the powerful ignore the suffering of those they deem insignificant. Is that the galaxy we want to inherit when we finally join the interstellar community? The debate raged for 3 days. Earth's military leaders warned of the risks. Economists calculated the strain on resources. Philosophers pondered the moral implications. But in the end, it came down to a simple truth. Humanity had spent centuries looking to the stars, dreaming of its place among them. Now the stars had looked back, and they found Earth wanting. The vote was nearly unanimous. Earth would help. Within weeks, shipyards around the planet switched to wartime production. The 30 interstellar vessels were retrofitted with newly developed quantum weaponry. Volunteer crews trained day and night, preparing to face an enemy they barely understood. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship Terra Nova, watching Earth shrink in the viewscreen. Beside him, Dr. Chen worked with her team to maintain communications with the Mirian refugees. The Nexus has reached our last major colony, came the latest transmission. We cannot hold them much longer. Tell them to hold on, Rodriguez replied, his jaw set with determination. Humanity is coming. As the fleet accelerated to quantum speeds, leaving their solar system behind, many crew members thought of the history they were making. Humanity's first interstellar war would not be fought for territory or resources, but to protect a species they had never met, against an enemy that threatened not just the Mirians, but the very principle of life itself. The Galactic Council had abandoned the Mirians, declaring them too primitive to save. They would soon learn that on Earth, the word primitive had a different meaning. It meant being willing to fight against impossible odds. It meant standing up for what was right, even when the cost was high. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what primitive could do. The quantum drives hummed through the Terra Nova as humanity's fleet pushed deeper into uncharted space. In the ship's engineering bay, Dr. Maya Patel worked frantically on what could be humanity's only advantage against the Nexus. Her team had discovered something extraordinary in the quantum field fluctuations their drives created, a disruption that seemed to interfere with machine consciousness. The Nexus operates on a unified quantum network, she explained to Admiral Rodriguez during their daily briefing. Their individual units share a collective consciousness. If we can disrupt that network, she left the implications hanging in the air. Rodriguez studied the holographic simulations floating above her workstation. How close would we need to get? Too close, Maya admitted, within their firing range. And we'd only have one shot before they adapt. The fleet's journey had revealed the true scale of their undertaking. Countless dead worlds marked the Nexus's path of destruction, each stripped of resources and left as lifeless husks. The machines were ruthlessly efficient, converting entire planets into raw materials for their endless expansion. Lieutenant Commander David Chen, no relation to Dr. Sarah Chen, led the fleet's fighter squadron in daily combat drills. His pilots would be crucial in the coming battle, needed to protect the larger ships while they deployed Dr. Patel's quantum disruptors. "We're not just fighting for the Mirians anymore," he told his pilots during a briefing. "Every world the Nexus destroys brings them closer to Earth. This is about survival, theirs and ours." 2 months into their journey, they'd received new data from the Mirian refugees. The Nexus had developed a new type of ship, one that could transform captured vessels into more of their own. The machines were learning, adapting, becoming more dangerous with each encounter. In response, humanity showed its greatest strength: innovation under pressure. Dr. Patel's team worked around the clock, refining their quantum disruption technology. Engineers modified the fleet's shields to resist the Nexus's convergent attempts. Even the ship's AI systems were upgraded with special firewalls based on human neural patterns, too chaotic and unpredictable for the machines to easily corrupt. But these preparations came at a cost. The strain on the crews grew with each passing day. Sleep became a luxury as everyone worked double shifts. The weight of their mission, the first humans to wage war among the stars, pressed down on every soul aboard the fleet. Admiral Rodriguez noticed the toll it was taking. During a rare quiet moment in his quarters, he recorded a personal log. "We knew this mission was dangerous, but I don't think any of us truly understood what we were undertaking. The Nexus isn't just a threat to the Mirians or to us. It's a threat to the very concept of organic life. And yet, despite everything we've seen, despite the horror of it all, not a single crew member has asked to turn back. There's something beautiful in that, something that reminds me why I believe in humanity." The fleet's long-range sensors detected the first Nexus scout ships 13 light days from their target. The machines had noticed them. Lieutenant Commander Chen's fighters launched immediately, engaging the scouts in the first-ever combat between humans and artificial life. The battle was brief but revealing. The Nexus ships moved with perfect precision, every action calculated to mathematical exactness. But the human pilots were unpredictable, creative, willing to take risks that no rational machine would consider. When the skirmish ended, 3 Nexus scouts had been destroyed, with only 1 human fighter damage. "They're not invincible," Chen reported afterward, his flight suit still smoking from electrical discharge. "They're predictable. They follow patterns. We can use that against them." Dr. Sarah Chen continued to study the Mirian transmissions, learning more about their culture and history. She discovered that before the Nexus invasion, they had been philosophers and artists, their civilization built on principles of harmony and intellectual pursuit. The machines had targeted them precisely because they were peaceful, seeing them as easy prey. "The galaxy's indifference to their fate is a stain on all advanced civilizations," she wrote in her report to Earth. "But perhaps it's fitting that humanity, the species that still remembers its own struggles for survival, should be the one to stand against this mechanized death." As they approached their final destination, Admiral Rodriguez gathered the fleet's senior staff. The latest scans showed over 300 Nexus ships surrounding the last Mirian colony. The machines had built a wall of living metal between humanity and those they had sworn to protect. Tomorrow, Rodriguez told his officers, we show the galaxy what it means to keep a promise, what it means to fight not for profit or power, but for the simple belief that life, all life, deserves a chance to exist. The Nexus thinks in binary, in absolutes. We'll show them that the universe isn't that simple, and that humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to defy the impossible. The meeting ended, and across the fleet, crews made their final preparations. In engineering, Dr. Patel ran one last diagnostic on her quantum disruptors. In the fighter bays, Lieutenant Commander Chen's pilots checked their ships, and on the bridge, Admiral Rodriguez watched the distant stars, knowing that tomorrow, humanity would either make history or become it. The price of compassion would soon be paid in full. The battle erupted in silence, the vacuum of space swallowing the destruction as humanity's fleet engaged the Nexus Armada. The machines moved with perfect synchronization, their ships forming geometric patterns that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. But the human fleet refused to follow their calculated dance, instead choosing chaos over order. Lieutenant Commander Chen's fighters darted between the larger vessels, their unconventional attack patterns confusing the Nexus prediction algorithms. Keep them guessing, he ordered over the comm. Random trajectories, no repeated patterns. Make every move a surprise. From the Terra Nova's bridge, Admiral Rodriguez watched the battle unfold across multiple holographic displays. The initial exchange had cost them 3 ships, their crews barely managing to evacuate before the Nexus's convergent beams could take hold. But Dr. Patel's quantum disruptors were working. When they managed to get close enough, the machine's coordinated movements became erratic, their perfect formations breaking apart. "Sir," Dr. Sarah Chen called out from her station, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Nexus ships. They're adapting faster than we anticipated." The machines had begun to modify their tactics, learning from each engagement. Their ships started moving individually rather than as a collective, making the quantum disruption less effective. It was an impressive display of artificial intelligence and a terrifying demonstration of their ability to evolve. But humanity had its own surprises. Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the command channel. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their adaptation patterns. They're predictable, like a computer program running through possibilities. If we can force them to adapt in a specific way, we can lead them into a trap." Rodriguez finished. He understood immediately. All ships, new formation. Operation Trojan Horse is now in effect. The human fleet began to pull back, appearing to retreat. The Nexus ships followed, their programming compelling them to pursue what they perceived as weakened prey. But this retreat was different from their usual tactical withdrawals. The human ships were moving in a precise pattern, one that seemed random but actually served a purpose. Dr. Patel had discovered that the Nexus's adaptive algorithms followed a predictable sequence, like a chess computer calculating moves ahead. By presenting specific situations, they could force the machines to adapt in ways that made them vulnerable to a coordinated strike. The cost was heavy. Several more human ships were lost in the process, their sacrifice necessary to make the deception convincing. Lieutenant Commander Chen lost 2 of his best pilots, their fighters torn apart by the Nexus's energy weapons. But the machines took the bait, adapting exactly as Dr. Patel had predicted. "All ships, execute pattern Sierra 9, Rodriguez commanded. The fleet suddenly reversed course, each ship activating their quantum disruptors at precisely calculated frequencies. The effect was devastating. The Nexus ships, their collective consciousness fragmented by their own adaptations, couldn't coordinate their defenses. For the first time, the machines experienced confusion. Their perfect formations dissolved into chaos as conflicting commands tore through their network. Human fighters struck at the disoriented ships, their weapons finding vulnerable points that had never been exposed before. But the Nexus had one more surprise. As their frontline ships began to fall, the machines activated some kind of emergency protocol. The remaining vessels started to combine, merging into larger, more powerful forms. Metal flowed like water as ships joined together, creating monstrous configurations that dwarfed anything humanity had encountered. They're sacrificing individual units to create something new, Dr. Puddle reported, her voice tense. The quantum disruption won't work on these merged forms. They're too complex. Rodriguez watched as one of these combined entities destroyed 2 human cruisers with a single shot. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. They had discovered the Nexus's weakness, but in doing so, they had forced the machines to evolve into something even more dangerous. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Chen's voice was steady despite the chaos around him. My pilots have noticed something. The merged ships, they're powerful, but they're slow. And their energy readings, they're unstable. Dr. Sarah Chen quickly confirmed his observation. The merged Nexus ships were putting out enormous amounts of energy, far more than their systems were designed to handle. They were trading efficiency for raw power, a distinctly un-machine-like decision born of desperation. That's it, Dr. Puddle exclaimed. They're overclocking themselves, pushing their systems beyond safe limits. If we can force them to maintain that state long enough. Rodriguez understood the implications. The Nexus, in its drive to overcome humanity's advantage, had created a critical vulnerability, but exploiting it would require perfect timing and more sacrifices. All ships, new objective, he announced. Concentrate fire on the merged units. Push them to their limits. Make them burn. The battle entered a new phase. Human ships darted around the lumbering merged forms, forcing them to maintain their energy-intensive states. Fighters launched precision strikes at cooling systems and power regulators, while larger vessels kept up constant pressure with their main weapons. The first merged Nexus ship exploded spectacularly, its overtaxed systems finally reaching critical failure. The detonation took out 3 more machine vessels and created a debris field that disrupted the enemy's formations. A second merged unit followed shortly after, then a third. The tide had turned. The Nexus, for the first time in its existence, had made a crucial mistake. In trying to counter human unpredictability, it had abandoned the very things that made it strong: efficiency, coordination, and perfect logic. As the battle raged on, Admiral Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had found more than just a tactical advantage. They had discovered something fundamental about their artificial adversary. The machines could adapt, but they couldn't truly innovate. They could calculate, but they couldn't create. They could evolve, but they couldn't imagine. The path to victory was clear, but the price would be higher than anyone had imagined. The real question was, would humanity be willing to pay it? The aftermath of the battle left an eerie quiet in its wake. Debris from both human and Nexus ships drifted through space, a testament to the ferocity of the combat. But amid the destruction, something unprecedented was happening. Ships were appearing on the edge of the system, vessels of designs neither human nor Nexus. We're receiving transmissions, Dr. Sarah Chen announced, her fingers dancing across her console. Multiple species. They've been watching the battle. The Arcturians, the Zixethal Collective, even representatives from the Galactic Council itself. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the bridge viewport, watching as the alien ships approached. The battle had proven that humanity could stand against the Nexus, but the cost had been severe. Nearly a third of their fleet was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. They needed allies if they were to continue the fight. The Galactic Council requests permission to dock, Chen reported, a note of irony in her voice. They say they want to apologize. The Council's delegation arrived aboard the Terra Nova with great ceremony. Their leader, High Commissioner Valax, was a tall, crystalline being who moved with fluid grace. "We have watched your battle with great interest," they said through a translator. "Your species has accomplished what we thought impossible." "We did what was right," Rodriguez replied simply. "Something your council chose not to do." "Yes," Valax acknowledged, their crystalline form dimming slightly in what might have been shame. "We had grown complacent, calculating risks and benefits while ignoring the moral imperative to act. Your humanity has shown us another way." The meeting that followed would change the course of galactic history. The Council had vast resources and advanced technology, but they had lacked something that humanity possessed in abundance: the will to stand against impossible odds for the sake of others. Dr. Patel was summoned to explain her quantum disruption technology to a group of alien scientists. The Arcturians, masters of energy manipulation, immediately saw ways to improve its effectiveness. The Zitexthul Collective, with their advanced manufacturing capabilities, offered to help repair and upgrade the human fleet. Lieutenant Commander Chen found himself working with alien fighter pilots, teaching them the unpredictable combat tactics that had proven so effective against the Nexus. "Machines think in patterns," he explained to a group of Arcturian pilots. "Our greatest weapon is our ability to break those patterns." But the Nexus wasn't idle. Long-range sensors detected massive activity in nearby systems. The machines were gathering their forces, combining into ever larger configurations. They had learned from their defeat and were preparing a response that would test this new alliance to its limits. "They're building something," Dr. Patel reported during an emergency briefing. "The energy readings are off the charts. They're taking everything they learned about merging ships and applying it on a scale we've never seen." The alien allies contributed their own intelligence. The Zitexthal had been monitoring Nexus-controlled space and discovered that the machines were stripping entire planets at an accelerated rate, consuming resources at an unprecedented pace to fuel their transformation. Rodriguez stood before a combined human-alien council of war, looking at faces and forms he never imagined he'd see. "The Nexus is preparing their final move," he said. "They've recognized us as an existential threat, not just to their current mission, but to their very existence. They're going to throw everything they have at us." The Council representatives, who had once dismissed the Mirians' pleas for help, now pledged their full support. Ships from a dozen species began arriving in the system, each bringing unique capabilities and technologies. The Arcturians provided energy weapons that could penetrate Nexus shields. The Zexethal shared their quantum-hardened armor technology. Even the mysterious Eldari, ancient beings who rarely interfered in galactic affairs, sent observers bearing gifts of advanced defensive systems. Dr. Sarah Chen worked tirelessly with alien linguists and strategists, creating a unified communication system that would allow the combined fleet to coordinate effectively. "We're not just fighting for one species anymore," she told Rodriguez. "We're fighting for the right of all organic life to exist without fear of extinction." The Mirians, watching from their refugee ships, were overwhelmed by the transformation. Their distress call to Earth had not only brought them salvation, but had sparked a revolution in how the galaxy's species viewed each other. Ancient rivalries were set aside as civilizations united against a common threat. But time was running out. The Nexus activity reached a fever pitch, and long-range sensors detected something massive moving through space, something that defied conventional analysis. "Whatever they're building, it's almost complete," Dr. Patel warned. "And it's heading straight for us." Rodriguez looked out at the assembled fleet, now numbering thousands of ships from dozens of species. Humanity had started this fight alone, standing up for a species they had never met. Now they stood at the center of the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. The final battle was approaching, and its outcome would determine not just the fate of humanity or the Mirians, but the future of all organic life in the galaxy. The Nexus had forced the galaxy's species to make a choice: stand together or fall alone. They had chosen to stand together, and humanity had shown them how. The massive form of the Nexus's final creation emerged from quantum space like a nightmare given physical form. It was a construct that defied comprehension, a living moon of metamorphic metal, composed of countless merged machine ships pulsing with malevolent energy. "By all the stars," whispered High Commissioner Valax, their crystalline form dimming at the sight. The massive construct dwarfed the combined fleet, its surface rippling as it continually reconfigured itself. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the Terra Nova's bridge, studying the tactical displays with Dr. Patel and Lieutenant Commander Chen. The Nexus had taken their weakness, the instability of merged forms, and turned it into a strength through sheer scale. They've created a distributed network, Dr. Patel explained, her voice tense. When one section approaches overload, it channels the excess energy to another. It's like a living organism, self-regulating to prevent the burnout we exploited before. The construct's first attack came without warning. A section of its surface transformed into a massive energy weapon, launching a beam that vaporized 3 ships instantly. The combined fleet scattered, their carefully planned formations breaking apart in the face of this unprecedented threat. But humanity had not come this far to fail now. All ships, implement Operation Phoenix, Rodriguez commanded. The plan they had developed with their alien allies was risky, but it was their best hope. The fleet began to move in a complex dance, implementing tactics that merge human unpredictability with alien technology. Arcturian energy ships created quantum interference fields, disrupting the construct's ability to redistribute power. HFY vessels launched swarms of nanites designed to invade the machine's systems. Human fighters, led by Chen, probed for weaknesses in the seemingly impenetrable defenses. Dr. Sarah Chen, working with alien scientists, had made a crucial discovery. The construct's consciousness is different from regular Nexus ships, she reported. It's not just a larger version. It's evolved into something new, something almost alive. This revelation proved crucial. The construct wasn't just a weapon. It was the Nexus' attempt to transcend its own limitations. In trying to counter organic life, it had begun to imitate it. That's its weakness, Dr. Patel realized. It's trapped between machine efficiency and organic chaos. It can't fully be either. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The combined fleet executed maneuvers that had never been attempted before, organic and technological innovation, merging in ways that even the Nexus couldn't predict. Every species contributed its unique strengths: human creativity, Arcturian energy manipulation, Zextal swarm tactics, and dozens of other approaches working in harmony. But the construct was immensely powerful. Ships were lost by the hundreds as it lashed out with weapons that bent the laws of physics. The Terra Nova itself was nearly destroyed, saved only by a desperate intervention from an Eldari defense system. The turning point came from an unexpected source. A group of Mirian scientists, working with Dr. Patel, had been studying their own ancient records. They discovered that their ancestors had once developed technology based on quantum consciousness, technology they had abandoned as too dangerous. If we can't overload its systems from the outside, Dr. Patel proposed, we'll do it from the inside. We'll give it what it wants. True consciousness. The plan was audacious. Using modified versions of the original quantum disruptors combined with Mirian quantum consciousness technology and Arcturian energy manipulation, they would force the construct to complete its evolution. Instead of fighting its attempt to become more organic, they would accelerate it. The strain of true consciousness, true free will. It's too much for a machine mind to handle, Dr. Chen explained. It's like trying to run a quantum computer's calculations through an ancient calculator. The price would be steep. The energy required meant that the ships delivering the consciousness pulse would almost certainly be destroyed. It was a suicide mission. Rodriguez looked at his crew, at the aliens who had become allies and friends, and made his decision. The Terra Nova will lead the charge. We started this fight for the Mirians. We'll finish it for everyone. The final assault was both brutal and beautiful. The Terra Nova, escorted by ships from every species, drove straight toward the construct's core. Fighters flew intricate patterns, drawing fire and creating gaps in the defenses. The air in the bridge grew thick with tension as they closed the distance. At the last moment, Lieutenant Commander Chen's fighters cleared a path through a storm of energy weapons. The Terra Nova's enhanced quantum disruptors, powered by technology from a dozen worlds, fired directly into the construct's heart. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The construct's surface began to writhe as true consciousness flooded its network. For a brief moment, it achieved what it had been trying to become, a truly living being. In that same moment, it understood the horror of what it had done, the civilizations it had destroyed, the lives it had ended. The realization destroyed it. The construct's death was like watching a star go nova. Its massive form began to break apart, consciousness and chaos tearing through its systems. Ships raced to escape the destruction, but the Terra Nova was too close. As the construct exploded, the flagship of humanity's fleet was caught in the blast. But Rodriguez had been prepared for this. Most of the crew had evacuated to other ships, leaving only a skeleton crew of volunteers. As the Terra Nova broke apart, emergency teleporters, gifted by the Eldari, activated, saving those few remaining crew members. The aftermath of the battle brought a new era for the galaxy. The remaining Nexus ships, cut off from their central consciousness, shut down. The threat that had seemed unstoppable was ended not just by force of arms, but by the very thing the machines had tried to destroy: the power of organic life to adapt, to cooperate, and to sacrifice for others. The Galactic Council was reformed, with humanity given a prominent role despite their relative youth as a spacefaring species. The Myrians began to rebuild, their world now protected by a permanent combined fleet. Other young civilizations, once ignored by the galaxy's powers, were sought out and welcomed into the interstellar community. Admiral Rodriguez, speaking at a ceremony marking the first anniversary of the victory, summed up what they had learned. The Nexus thought that organic life was inefficient, chaotic, and weak. They were right about the first two, but they were wrong about the third. Our chaos, our emotions, our willingness to risk everything for others. These are not weaknesses. They are the source of our greatest strength. The galaxy had learned that true strength lies not in technological superiority or perfect efficiency, but in the willingness to stand together, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And it all began because humanity, abandoned by the galaxy, but not by hope, chose to become a shield for those in need.